Hi everyone, I'm David Aragona, and this is the May 6th edition of Horses to Watch, where we carefully analyze trips, looking for some horses that might have encountered adversity in the past week and could be worth betting back when they run in the future. This week we're looking back at 4 races from last week at Belmont Park. I missed opening week at Belmont Park with this show as it was a busy Kentucky Derby week. But we're going to take a look at last week's racing as there were a few interesting trips to highlight from Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. We're going to highlight actually one from Friday, two from Saturday, a maiden race and an allowance race from that loaded 11 race card on Saturday, and then finally a maiden race from Sunday. But let's kick things off with a race from last Friday's card, April 30th at Belmont. This was the 6th race of the day, a maiden special weight going 6 furlongs for New York bred fillies and mares. And let's break these runners from the gate. I want to focus on a first-time starter in this race, the number 3 Cali Fitz. Now, you're not going to see her right away as they pick from the gate because she's kind of obscured by some other horses. She's in those very light-colored silks outside of the number 1 horse right now. But you're going to see as they move down the backstretch in the opening furlong, she's going to drop back ever so slightly behind those first couple of groups of runners. And right here, as she starts to get some kickback into her face, as she gets behind these runners, you can see that she starts to carry her head very high. And in racing, trip handicapping parlance, we call this climbing, when it looks like a horse is almost running uphill because they're reacting badly to the kickback, all that dirt getting kicked in their face. And she's just carrying her head very high, not getting air the way that she should be. And she's outside of horses now, basically dropped back to last place at this point, because even though she had some run coming out of the gate, she just was really green, obviously never experiencing this, just making her debut. It doesn't really simulate the race when you train these horses in the morning, even behind horses. And by the time they get to the top of the stretch here, you can see she's still last, about 3 or 4 lengths behind the last group of horses in this field. But getting into the stretch, finally her rider Trevor McCarthy gets her a little bit to the outside of runners, and she does finish off this race better than she started. She lowers her head and is going to level off a bit. You can't really see it here on the pan shot, but when you watch the head on, you can see that she does even out her stride as they come to the wire. She only passes a few runners as they get close to the finish line. This wasn't the fastest maiden race in the world. I believe she just got a 39 buyer for this effort, finishing in, I believe, 7th place. But she feels like one that just wasn't really prepared for the debut, even though she went out for a trainer, Jorge Abreu, who typically has his first-time starters cranked up. This just felt like a filly, a daughter of California Chrome, that needed a race, and I think she'll do better in her second career start when she's able to show a bit more speed and not have to deal with all that kickback that she took on the backstretch. Moving on to a couple of races from Saturday. The first one is race 7 from that May 1st card. This is a New York bred allowance race, nominators of one other than, going 7 furlongs on the turf. Let's break these horses from the gate, and I'm going to focus on a horse that's going to wind up in the back of the pack in the early going of this race, and that's the number 5 Bad Guy. He's in those yellow silks and the blinkers, basically one path off the inside as they break from the gate. And he's going to settle towards the back of the pack. This is a Rudy Rodriguez trainee who's pretty experienced now. I think he's a 5 or 6-year-old at this point. He's been stuck at this level for a long time. He's not a horse that loves to win races by any means. I think he just has about 3 career victories in his lifetime. But he does typically run well, and I think Rudy Rodriguez has him in very good form right now, competing at this allowance level. Just feels like maybe he didn't get the shot to achieve the highest placing that he could have in this race, because as the race develops on the backstretch, he's in his usual position in about 10th place towards the back of the pack, and towards the front end is the number 10 Swashbuckle, and it should be noted, Swashbuckle is going to wire this field and lead them all the way on the lead, so this is not a race that really favored horses coming from off the pace, and you can see Bad Guy now, he's been shuffled back a little bit, all the way back in last place. His rider, Nick Juarez, is trying to do the right thing by saving ground towards the back of the pack, but he just gets caught in one of these difficult positions in a turf race that's pretty crowded with a lot of horses in front of him, where he gets into the stretch and he's just stuck behind a wall of horses with nowhere to go. You can see he's not even really asking this horse right now. He's got to alter course pretty abruptly right there to the inside to avoid a tiring horse that's backing up in his face. And even here, as they're coming past the 8th pole, Nick Juarez really can't ride this horse. Not until about right here, when he finds a seam down to the inside, can he ask this horse for his best. And you can see Bad Guy quickening up, but he's just hitting his best stride only as they're coming across the finish line. So you wonder what he could have done if he had gotten into the clear at the quarter pole and made that run from the quarter pole home. Potentially, it could have been dangerous and potentially won this race, but he just didn't have a chance to achieve the highest placing that he could have, given the fact that he had to wait so long for running room in upper stretch. So we'll see what we get from Bad Guy in the future. As I said during the race, he's not the most reliable win candidate, but I think he's a horse that twice now has run really well against allowance company. I think he finished second in his prior start. He was 4th here, and and maybe he's one that you want to give a look to next time out because he's likely to be a big price just given his overall record and reputation. Moving on to the next race on that Saturday card. This is race 8 on that May 1st card from Belmont Park. This is a maiden special weight going 6 furlongs on the turf for fillies and mares. Let's break these runners from the gate, and I want to focus on a pair of runners in this race, both making their career debuts for the Linda Rice barn. One of those is the number 8, Gale Horse Wind, and the other is the number 11, Wild America. Now, you can see that the number 8, Gale Horse Wind, she just breaks slowly and is pretty sluggish in the early portion of this race. Feels like one that probably isn't meant to succeed going 6 furlongs, the distance of this race, but might be one to watch down the line. Whereas the number 11, Wild America, a daughter American Pharaoh who can certainly get runners that can sprint, but she just seemed like a horse that was really green in this race and had no idea what she was doing. Both of these horses show greenness, actually, but in different ways. So you can see that Gale Horse Wind, the number 8, she's basically dropping off your screen at this point, about 7 lengths behind the second-to-last runner. And she's going to make up quite a bit of ground as they come to the top of the stretch, whereas the number 11, Wild America, in those orange silks, she's going wide around the far turn, losing ground every step of the way, and is not going to take the turn well as they come to the top of the stretch. Now, watch right here as Gale Horse Wind is trying to make a move, electing whether to go inside or outside of her stablemate, and something's going to happen where it seems like maybe the number 8 catches the heel of the number 11, Wild America, and it seemed like the number 11, Wild America, lost her hind end action and basically just takes her out of the race at that point, and she's going to get eased to the wire. Whereas Gale Horse Wind, she's actually finishing up okay, even though her rider Hector Diaz really isn't asking for her for much as they finish off this race. She almost runs up into 5th place at the end, even though she was just kind of being allowed to gallop out across the wire. Gale Horse Wind is a daughter of Flintshire. Those progeny feel like horses that need experience, definitely need more ground than 6 furlongs, so expect her to improve second time out for a trainer, Linda Rice, who often doesn't have them cranked up to win, really doesn't do a whole lot of gate work ahead of their first starts, so she should break better and be more professional next time out. As for the number 11, Wild America, just seemed like a horse that, even though she has that expensive purchase price, being the daughter of American Pharaoh, wasn't really prepared for her debut either. She was wide, got her action taken away at the top of the stretch. Just don't really think we got to see what she could do in this race. So I think both of these horses deserve another shot second time out. And given the fact that they were both off the board here, they could be decent prices when they resurface in races, perhaps going a little bit longer in the future. Let's finish things up with a race from Sunday's card. This is May 2nd at Belmont Park. We're going to take a look at race 5, maiden special weight, going 6 furlongs on the dirt for the New York breds. This is a race that got plenty of people talking because of the winner of the race, but I want to focus on the winner, stablemate, who actually is going to finish 3rd here. Let's break these horses from the gate, and the horse that I'm interested in is the number 7, Devil Boy. As I alluded to, he is a Jeremiah Engelhardt trained stablemate of the number 1, the horse that's going to win this race. Now, the number 7, Devil Boy, he doesn't break that well. He's off about a length slowly, winds up towards the back of the pack, whereas his stablemate, River Dog, the number 1 horse who's going to win this race, he breaks much more alertly, is going to get a good trip, takes the lead around the far turn, and runs off to a very impressive victory in fast time. But we're going to focus on Devil Boy, who's in those purple silks with the orange saddle towel, now too wide towards the back of the pack, and the pace of this race is not fast. Even though the final time achieves a very high speed figure, the pace is slow in the early going, especially the first quarter of this race. So Devil Boy finds himself at the back of the pack, and Jose Ortiz's rider is just waiting. You can see he's not asking this horse for any run at this point in the race, and it's not until they get into the stretch that he finally swings him out into the center of the track and asks this horse to run, and he's in a position that should be hopeless given how fast the winner of this race comes home. I believe the winner, River Dog, runs his final quarter in 23-1. Very impressive, but Devil Boy is actually going to run past almost the entire field except for the top 2 in the stretch of this race. It's hard to see as he's leaving your screen now, but he is really running on, and believe it or not, given the fact that he came into the stretch in about 12th place, he actually gets up for 3rd in a photo. And if you look at the Trackist numbers for this race, River Dog did run the fastest final quarter, but Devil Boy, even though he wasn't really asked for any run until they got to the quarter pole, he runs his final quarter mile in 23.46 seconds according to Trackist, almost as fast as his stablemate who won the race, River Dog. Now, River Dog got a 96 buyer for winning this race. I think that the Timeform US speed figure was a 1:15, so that's really as fast as you're going to see a first-time starter run, especially in a New York bred event. He looks very talented, but I think that this horse, Devil Boy, a son of Daredevil, Gale might be just as talented as his stablemate, just wasn't really cranked up and didn't get to show it in his debut. But if he gets in the field with not nearly as much traffic trouble to deal with next time, and if he can get over that hesitancy he showed coming out of the starting gate, I think we'll see a much better performance from Devil Boy in his next start, and probably a big speed figure improvement. So those are all the horses to watch for this week. Remember, if you want to follow these horses in the future, you can go to DRF.com and add them to your horse watch. You can get watch mail when these horses run back, whether they're entered or have results or workouts in the future. You'll get email notifications whenever they have some activity in the future. That's how I like to follow the horses that I highlight on this show. So thanks for tuning in this week, and make sure to watch out for future episodes of Horses to Watch on upcoming Wednesdays.